Do you remember? In this scene when Goten is singing, it's an Easter egg to our end credits. But what you don't know is that there's two reasons why I chose this specific line. One, it highlights Goten's desperate desire to see his family and friends. Second, it also cuts this important part of the song saved for future Trunks. Unlike future Trunks, Goten can't move on from his losses. Where future Trunks represents hope for the future, Goten represents misery from the past. Why does Zamasu treat Goten better when he's an adult when he was rougher with him as a kid? Well, it explains in Goten Black's diary shorts. After you read all the diary entries, it is revealed that the reader is Zamasu spying on Goten and gaslighting him into believing he's imagining the intruder. I originally wanted Chapter 5 Part 2 to dive into Zamasu and Goten's abusive relationship, but I got really sick during that time, and I didn't want to be late on the due date, which is why Chapter 5 Part 2 is so short. Now I decided to take my time and not rush the process anymore, as I'm pretty disappointed with how Chapter 5 Part 2 came out. I had so many scenes planned out, but I had to cut it out due to time constraints. Maybe a future short of Zamasu and Kid Goten Black will come out in the future. But until then, now you know. Did you know, originally there was no Umibuzu. This lake was actually supposed to be residue from Janemba's machine that formed into a lake. But I changed it at the last second because it didn't feel right to me. Then I saw Masako X's video about darkness, and I wanted to reintroduce the character. But Joel pointed out that it wouldn't make sense because darkness was on Earth, not in Hell. So I decided to bring Umibuzu itself into the story, which I think was the best decision, since I can have more freedom to play around with the powers, lore, and possession. What happened to future Chi-Chi? I've noticed a lot of confusion in this scene where Goten finds his old house. Instead of finding future Chi-Chi, Goten instead finds her clothes and the Ox King clothes laying around with footsteps littered on the ground. So what happened to them? Well, it was none other than Imperfect Cell that visited them before he met future Trunks in the original series. This was actually Joe's idea. Originally, this was going to be a bloodier scene, indicating that the androids killed them. But Joe said it didn't look good, so he suggested that Cell got to them instead. This is why you can see holes in their clothes and why there's footprints on the floor. But I can see where the confusion is coming from. It looks like Big Bird got her, not Imperfect goddamn Cell. Ugh. Am I going to give Goten more transformations in the future? No. Just no. I'm only planning on giving Goten Super Saiyan 2 and Rose. I have no intentions of giving him any other transformations or even making his own unique transformations. Why, you may ask? Well, other than to be faithful to the original story, I just personally think it's immature for fanfic writers to make their OCs OP. I want Goten to not only be powerful, but to have major flaws with the power. I want to avoid making him a Gary Sue, and I want him to earn his power. So I won't be giving him any new transformations like this. Or have him meet Bill Cipher, what the heck? Why was Zamasu nice in Chapter 4? Some people have rightfully pointed out this feels very out of character of Zamasu, as in the original series, he hated mortals with a passion, and he did kill Goten too. Well, I can't really answer that now, as that's a spoiler of what's to come in Act 3. What I can say is that Chapter 4 followed Goten's point of view. We haven't seen Zamasu's point of view yet. Let's just say Zamasu is hiding a lot of secrets from Goten, which will be revealed more as the story continues. And the biggest secret is why he came to Earth in the first place. Did you notice? Emperor Pilaf and Shu never spoke a word during all of Act 1. I wanted to make this a running joke throughout Goten Black. I felt Pilaf and Shu had too many scenes in the original Goku Black, and I just didn't find them that funny. So I decided to have them mute background characters for my story. I'll continue to keep them quiet for the whole story, so don't expect much out of them. Like Pilaf being the leader of the resistance against Goten Black instead of Trunks. What? I got into Dragon Ball when I was 11 years old. At that time, my parents had split up and I was going through one of the hardest times of my life. I fell into a huge depression, and I remember I didn't want to do anything. Until one day I was channel surfing and I stumbled across this new anime that appeared in Nicktoons. And my entire life changed. Goku became my hero. I wanted to be like him, and I actually got into running because of him. I tried to be tough like Vegeta, and I trained myself to never cry because that's not what a true Saiyan would do. I even parted my hair like Android 18. Dragon Ball was like my second personality, and I met my best friend because of it. And it was all thanks to the brilliance of Akira Toriyama. You didn't just make an anime, you gave me my role model. Your legacy will live on. Rest in peace. Did you guys catch this Team 4-Star reference? When Goten Black shoots Vegeta, not only is it supposed to be a callback to Cell killing Trunks, but this line that Goten says is actually a reference to Team 4-Star's Perfect Cell.
Aw shit, that was meant for TN. That's my B.
Both Joe and I are huge Team 4-Stars fans, so sometimes I'll also sprinkle in some Easter eggs once in a while, like Heat Tap or Lucky Foods. I'm also planning on adding more Easter eggs in Chapter 7, which you can read now on my Patreon. Subscribe to support Goten Black! Did you notice? My OCs make a cameo in the Goten Black shorts. You can see them running to the carnival in Trunks Makes Felice Cry and cosplaying FNAF characters in the Halloween special. But did you know they actually do have a connection? Generation Defenders is actually based off of my old Dragon Ball GT rewrite I did in high school with a mixture of FNAF sprinkled inside. It's even in the title, GT GD. Hey! I also used some of my ideas I want to use for Generation Defenders into Goten Black to see what works and what doesn't. So I hope you guys give it a chance. Did you notice? Chapter 7's title card is actually a reference to a fan video Gotcha Rose sent me. I've mentioned before that I like adding Team 4-Star references to my stories, but I also like adding references to the fans, so I'm going to list a few. This sword during Chapter 5 Part 3 was a recommendation made by Pinky Winky, while this dialogue from Zamasu was recommended by another fan, Generation Avengers. Even the Heffel short was inspired from this comment in Chapter 4. Joe and I sometimes listen to the fans if we like their ideas, but that doesn't mean we're going to use all their ideas. We still want to keep true to our original story, but we don't mind adding a few new ideas to the story as long as it's not so drastic. Like Goten Black and Zamasu playing Pokemon Go? Did you guys notice? My Nikolai short has Easter eggs to Goten Black and vice versa. If you squint really closely, you can see the comic book stores and posters on the wall that have Goten Black. It even has #NoticeGD. As for Goten Black, you can see my Nikolai short on the Jumbotron in Chapter 6 underneath Future Valise. You can also see the prototype of Eli's character design and his mom in Chapter 5 running away with, get this, future versions of Rula, Fyra, and Kompas. And since my OCs do make a cameo during the Goten and Valise shorts, you might see them make a return in Chapter 7. So keep an eye out! Did you guys notice some of the Easter eggs in my Nikolai short? Let's go over some major ones. Nikolai passes a poster that says Space Heroes X, which is supposed to be a reference to the Dragon Ball GT logo. He also walks down a bridge that says Warp Start Street and passes Dragon Sparks Toys and Books, which are two YouTubers who have helped out this channel before. Also, 3 out of the 4 missing kids shown in the TV are references to classic Five Nights at Freddy's characters, with the other one I made up to fill the room. The city in the background is actually the city of Townsville from the Powerpuff Girls, and finally the sound effect for the end is actually a reference to TMNT's end credit sound effects, which I'm also reviewing on this channel. Subscribe to help support us! Did the Goku Black arc still happen in Goten Black's universe? Good question. It actually didn't. This is why Goten doesn't recognize Zamasu and the main reason why their universe lost the Tournament of Power. They just weren't as strong as the original Super Timeline. Also, in addition to that, I'd like to say Goten Black's Goku is more like Super Goku, while present Goku is still Z Goku. That's why present Goku is a bit more mature than the canon. I just miss Z Goku more. How did Zamasu get injured in Chapter 4? Well, is he really injured? If you pay attention to his dialogue, Zamasu has his classic 3 dots indicating that he's lying. In fact, when Goten shows him the cave, Zamasu doesn't act injured anymore. In fact, the wounds suddenly disappear. That's all I can say for now. I plan on revealing how Zamasu got to Goten Black's timeline somewhere in Act 3. Subscribe to help us get to 5K! Did Zamasu sabotage the Tournament of Power? No, that's not what happened. I usually don't go into spoilers, but I do want to address one thing. I believe if we actually did this plot twist, it would ruin what we're trying to do with Goten Black. One thing I want to happen in Goten Black is for Goku to learn responsibilities for his actions. In the original Super, I felt Goku was a bit too childish and kept relearning the same lessons over and over. Well, by the end of this arc, Goku will learn a lesson and he will be more mature. So if it was revealed that it was actually Zamasu all along, then it would be Zamasu's fault, not Goku's. But when will this happen? Well, I guess you're just gonna have to wait for Act 3. Is there a young Goten trapped inside his own body? No, that's not what's happening either. Although Goten is possessed by Umibuzu and manipulated by Zamasu, Goten is neither brainwashed nor under control. All the actions that you see Goten Black doing, that's all Goten himself doing. Imagine it like a voice in your head feeling your anger. Yes, it's telling you to do it, but it's still your choice to listen to it or not. So although Zamasu is pushing him to be the monster, Goten is still listening and still pushing himself to be a monster. It's still his choice at the end of the day, because he still agreed to go inside the water. What happened to Jiren after the Tournament of Power? Good question. So a lot of people have been wondering, what wish did Jiren make, hoping that he made the right decision at the end. Well, he didn't. I imagined my Jiren trying to wish for his parents to come back, resulting in the erasure of his universe too. Think about it. If Jiren really did wish for all the universe to come back, then Goten Black's Goku would be looking for his son. So I hope that answers the question. Is there going to be any unique moves Goten Black will get, or variations of moves we've known like the Black Kamehameha? Good question. Yes, there is. I can't really go into more detail as I'm going to save some of these in Act 3 and parts of Chapter 7, but just know that we will have our own fusion of what merged Zamasu will be like Goku Black's Scythe, and even his evil clones. So stay tuned for Act 3. Did you know? This joke was actually a recycled joke I used from my old comics. Oh geez, does that art look bad? Sometimes I'll reuse ideas that I want to use for Generation Defenders into Goten Black as this test to see like what works and what doesn't. Hope you guys can give my original comics a chance. How old is Goten Black? Good question. I have been asked this so many times, so it's time I just give y'all the answer. He's 29, a year younger than future Trunks in my version. Again, I want to avoid making Goten Black a Gary Sue, and decided to have him train under Zamasu for several years to explain how powerful he is and will be in the future. Is Goten Black stronger than Goku Black? Well, yeah, he is. I said it before, Goten Black trained under Zamasu for more years, so he has more control of his new powers than the original Goku Black. But he is much more unstable than the canon Goku Black. Again, I don't want Goten Black to be a Gary Sue, so each time he appears to get stronger, he will also become more insane to even things out. What would Goten Black sound like? Good question. A lot of people theorize he'd sound like his GT self.
Fancy meeting you here. Are you okay?
While others just imagine him sounding like the regular Goku Black.
But this race deserves to end. That is what you fail to realize.
But for me, I actually envision him with a deep, sarcastic, cocky voice. So if I were to choose someone, I guess it'd be Benjamin Diskin.
Now this is the kind of action every good festival ought to have. Hold on, do I know you from somewhere?
When's the next chapter of Goten Black? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. I draw Goten Black pages when I have free time. Then when all the pages are finally done, I ship them to Joe, who takes about a month to edit. Then during the editing process, we both come up with a release date, then announce it. Right now, the first 10 minutes of Chapter 7 is now available for our channel memberships for less than $2. But right now, Chapter 7 is still not ready, so we don't know yet. Will Goten and Goten Black interact? Yes. If you pay attention to my community tabs, then you're aware that Goten is present for this chapter. Now, I'm not going to say how they'll meet, but I can say it'll happen in this chapter. Not saying which part, but definitely in Chapter 7. Adding to that, I do have more plans for Goten than just a one-time appearance. Stay tuned. What's the reason for you to create Goten Black? Pure, absolute boredom. It was 2020 during the pandemic and school was shut down for a year. I was currently helping Joe with his channel, but my channel was still stuck at 20 subs. So because I had nothing to do, I decided to create Goten Black, as I was one of those fans that hoped Goku Black would turn out to be Goten. Not because he was my favorite character, because I hoped he had a purpose to the story. And the rest is history. How come Goten shatters his past self but still loves and remembers his family and friends? I'm actually gonna let Generation Avenger explain. If you pay attention to the second ending, you can see how the second ending is showing the progression of time and its effects on Trunks and Goten. With Trunks becoming stronger and more experienced, and Goten's grief turning into rage, and memories of his old life fading away, evidenced by the pictures becoming more crumbled and ripped up. Also, Goten in the picture is almost entirely gone, as a sign that he's already accepted who and what he is now and casted aside what and who he was before. Bonus fact, Goku isn't ripped because he's more focused on killing him more than anything. So in a way, his hate for Goku keeps him sane or focused. Did you know Goten Black had a completely different backstory? Originally, Zamasu was supposed to trick Goten into believing nobody cared about him, especially Goku and Trunks. But it was thanks to this comment that made me change my mind. I hope Goten's motivations are much deeper than simple jealousy and bitterness. I was talking to Joe about this while watching Chapter 1 when I got to the end credits. And then it clicked. What if Goten came from a universe where Goku lost the Tournament of Power? And the rest was history. Will Goku know what he did in Goten Black's timeline? I actually answered this question in my first podcast a couple of years ago. What I can say about it is that it'll come in either Chapter 8 or 9. But it's coming soon, so stay tuned and watch my first podcast to hear other Goten Black ideas I had in the past. Does Goten Black know that Goku wasn't aware about the universe being erased until it was too late? Yes, Bulma told him in this scene. Goten hoped Goku had some sort of plan or strategy to win the Tournament of Power, especially how in my version they had a month to get ready. So he was horrified, then furious when he didn't. And with Jiren wishing for the wrong thing, Goten views the Tournament of Power as a pure selfish game Goku couldn't even win. All I can say is that I'm really looking forward to seeing this story progress, but also hoping to see more with your own OCs, hoping to see them more of their stories soon too. First off, let me say just how happy that makes me feel. You have no idea how long I've been waiting for this. Finally, someone wants to hear some of my own stories. Oh yeah, the question. Did Zamasu ever make the wish for immortality, or was he just more focused on Goten? Funny timing. You can actually find out on my Patreon right now, or you can wait for Chapter 7 when it comes out. Stay tuned. Oh my god, you guys are hilarious. So the reason why I decided to make this a month instead of a few days like in the original Tournament of Power is because I wanted the power scales to make sense here. I never understood how Caulifla and Kale could somehow be on par with Goku even in their fusion. Or how about 17? Or even Gohan's mini training arc that he did in a day. I decided to do a month so that way it just made a little bit more sense as to why everyone was as strong as they were in the Tournament of Power. And also to justify why Jiren won instead of Goku. He also had a month to train.